They're dead, Dave.
What, Captain Hollister?
Everybody's dead, Dave.
What, Todd Hunter? What, Selby? Not Jen.
He's dead, Dave. Everybody is dead. Everybody is dead, Dave.
Hello, welcome back to Everybody is Dead Dave, the Red Dwarf review podcast with myself, Phil Hawkins, and my co-host, Adam Martyn.
Hello.
I am the long-term fan since the 90s, not quite since from the beginning of the show, but, you know, I was very young at the beginning of the show. Since the 90s, Adam is the relative newbie.
Always will be the relative
Always
newbie.
the relative newbie. And we've been going through the show episode by episode with a few specials thrown in, and we've got another special for you today because we're looking at the Bodysnatchers.
Yes, yeah, and this is the second of the, what would you call it, like the storyboard missing episodes, maybe?
Yeah, it's kind of one of those ones where there was a script for it and it never got recorded, so they have done, for the DVDs and for the Blu-rays and things, they have done a special feature where they've got Chris Barrie to effectively narrate it, do some of the stage directions, and it says when it cuts to the image of Red Dwarf on the screen, and all those sort of bits are in there. But also he's just doing the voices of everyone, and doing the script, and they put that to a storyboard. Now I think chronologically this was first because this existed as a script before the show even started filming. This was one of the earlier scripts of the show, in fact, and was used in the audition process, I believe.
Oh, is that so?
Yeah,
well,
when they were auditioning people. And originally, according to the wiki that I'm reading, anyway, take Wikipedia entries with a pinch of salt, obviously, but this was the script that they were using when they were considering both Alfred Molina and Alan Rickman for the roles of Lister and Rimmer, respectively.
Do you know what? I could potentially see that. Alfred Molina, Alan Rickman, I think it seems like an obvious choice for Rimmer, but Alfred Molina, I don't know. I haven't seen much of him in his younger days.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I don't think I've seen anything of Alfred Molina before he played Doc Ock.
I think that's the case for a lot of us as well.
So before he was in Spider-Man, I don't think I've seen him in anything. Or maybe I have, and I just don't.
I've got a feeling he did do, I might have read this somewhere, I've got a feeling he did like a comedy TV show at some point in his career. I'm certain I've read that.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, he's a good actor anyway. He could have probably done it. But yeah, very interesting.
I'm Googling pictures of him in the 1980s now just to see what
How's he
looked
looking?
like in the 1980s.
How's he looking?
Well, there's one of him in a very fetching beret.
Oh, very nice. Turned to an Alfred Molina fan club. So.
Yeah.
But I read as well, just when we're talking about the preamble to Bodysnatcher, that this, I think, originally was going to be the second episode of the show. At least that's what I read before it got bumped.
And that absolutely makes sense with some of the stuff that happens in it and some of the dialogue that's in it.
Yeah.
It absolutely makes sense that this would be, okay, they've fairly recently discovered that everybody's dead. And now what's happening next? So that kind of makes sense. We have, of course, covered one of these things where they've had storyboard images, because that's what's happening while we're hearing Chris Barrie do all the voices and everything. We've got these kind of rough storyboard images. Some of them are quite good, in fact. They're quite detailed. I think they're more detailed in this one than they were in the last one, I think. I don't know what you think.
That's true, yeah. I mean, because the other one, for those who might not be aware, was Identity Within, which was originally meant to be an episode from Series 7, I think.
Yeah. So despite that being from a later series, that as in this format, in the storyboard format, that was made first to go on the DVDs.
Yes.
And then this wasn't on the DVDs originally. You won't find this on the Series 1 DVDs. You'll only find it if you bought the Bodysnatcher collection, which had all the series in, and this as an extra sort of bonus.
Yeah, and I read as well that this was, I think, 2007 when Bodysnatcher first got issued, and it was actually Grant and Naylor, the creators of Red Dwarf, their first, because they came together apparently or collaborated to finish this or get this together, and that was their first official collaboration since their acrimonious split in the mid-90s. That's what I think it was from the Red Dwarf wiki or something. But
I think you're right. Yeah.
So a lot riding on this. You know, we've hyped it up. I think quite a lot. So.
Yeah. So what we start off with this is we start off with some snoring, some really horrible snoring is going on, and Lister does not like this snoring. Takes a flare gun to his head, and he's like on the verge of pulling it because he's so annoyed with his snoring. So we obviously assume that the snoring is Rimmer.
Yeah, which seems very, I don't know, that seems very uncharacteristic for Rimmer, at least to my viewing.
Well, I did think that, but then I thought, oh, well, you know, maybe like everybody snores or whatever.
We do, yes, that is true.
It beyond that. And then, but we don't actually see Rimmer at this point. We get then it cutting back to 6 days earlier. And we get Lister again being woken up and kept awake, but this time by an alert and alarm. And it's Holly. I think Chris does an amazing Holly impression. I love his Holly impression. You
can tell he's gone for like, it's like a nasal thing, like to get the voice. And it just, but like you say, it works so well. That is Holly. That is Norman Lovett to a T. I mean, I think we've said before, haven't we? But he does all of the, he just does all of those so well.
Emergency. Will all crew please proceed to General Assembly 4? This is a Class A emergency.
Yeah, definitely. He's a great impressionist, Chris. But I think his Holly is probably my favourite.
Oh, God, yeah. It just... for me, as an actor myself, it's the way, as I say, he does like the nasal part of it. For me, that just sells it completely.
So the emergency alert makes him run all the way to the refectory, which is where he's been told to go. And there, waiting for him, is Rimmer, who is basically doing a roll call of the crew because they've had this leak, where it's killed all the crew, and he's now going through the official procedures of doing a roll call of the entire crew.
Yeah.
This is what I mean by it feels like it is the second episode, because he's like referencing the radiation leak as sort of something that is very recent, has just happened.
Yes,
and now he's doing this.
Yeah. I was just going to say that this was one of a few moments in this, actually, where I felt you could absolutely see this in the finished show, like as working as part of it all. Like I can just visualize actual Chris Barrie and Craig Charles doing this scene and it actually working really well. One thing about, I guess, this whole thing, which I can't remember if I said it for Identity Within, because I can't remember if he did it. But of course, in this, Chris Barrie, like you say, is narrating like where we are setting-wise and all that, and actions and stuff in the absence of, proper visuals. But he also reads the stage interior or exterior. And part of me thought, I don't know, I'd prefer if they weren't included, because even with the storyboards, you can see, right, that's Red Dwarf in space, or now we're... Do you know what I mean? It's a very personal nitpick. It doesn't necessarily make it a worse thing, but I would have preferred if the stage directions like those weren't read out, personally.
That's fair enough. The one I remember thinking when they said interior morning the second time, I was like, is the morning relevant? Is the fact that it's morning relevant here? I mean, I suppose he's just woken up, so I guess maybe it is.
Yeah.
We've already had that in the previous scene. The fact that they're still emphasizing that it's the morning. It's not, I get, like, in the script, I guess it's to keep so the actors know, like, okay, we're still in the same time frame here.
Yeah.
It's not like you see the sun rising or anything in a ship. So
no, it's the what is it now? It's like, when they show the exterior and it just goes exterior, Red Dwarf in space, interior, and it's like, well, yeah, like I know it's because it's a model shot or whatever, but yeah, just not. It wasn't for me, personal preference aside. But
when he's when Rimmer is listing off all the crew, starts listing off all the crew, we get a little repetition of the they're all dead.
Oh yes, yeah.
Just a little snippet of, and this time it's coming from Lister. He's the one saying this time they're all dead, trying to like stop.
Which makes you,
they're all dead.
Which makes you think: were they going to make that like maybe that they might have made that a recurring thing? Who knows? We
then get introduced to the cats the first time in this episode with a scene that is pretty much then, obviously, I say lifted. It's not. This is where it originates.
Yeah.
And then later on, they repurposed this scene almost word for word into, I think it was Confidence and Paranoia. And it's where Kat is going around going, this one is mine, this is mine, this is mine.
Yes, I was going to say, when that came on, that felt very, very familiar.
Yeah, and then he goes something along the lines of like, now I'm going to find something to have sex with. Something like
yes. And you can see, like you said earlier, that this part of this was supposedly used in the audition process. I don't know if they used Kat, but that whole Kat bit before Rimmer appears, or even when he appears, that whole scene feels like an audition scene. Not in a bad way, but you could easily, just take that and say, right, you're auditioning for Kat, like, do it, because that whole, this is mine, that could be interpreted in so many different ways. So I wouldn't be surprised if we found out that scene was one of the audition scenes, as it were.
Yeah, for the Kat. It's not the last time we'll get a scene that feels like it's hearkening to something that they ended up using as well. They take other bits of this and repurpose it into the series. Obviously, once they decided that they weren't using this episode specifically, they then decided to sort of, what's the word? No. I was going to say rip it apart. What's the word? Salvage it for its parts.
Salvage it for parts. That's the one.
That's what I mean. To use in other areas, so we get a bit of repetition. Things that we're familiar with now, which is quite nice.
Yes, absolutely.
Lister wants to get rid of Rimmer. Clearly, he's already really annoyed with him.
He's had enough.
Waking him up in the morning and stuff. It's not on.
No, and I think there's moments in. Obviously, it's been a long time since we've seen series 1, but I think there's moments throughout that series where he feels like that as well, or where he threatens it and stuff like that. And I was going to say the bickering between the two of them in the roll call scene, that felt very series 1.
Yes.
Like we've said, I mean, they bicker all the time, but I think we've said, over time they sort of, they earn that sort of begrudging tolerance or respect of one. Whatever, you can see their bond develop, but you can tell this is a series 1 story because that's just not there yet at all. They're mainly just two people who are completely opposed to each other in nearly every way.
Yeah, and Lister just doesn't really want to see Rimmer at all. I think he has one line about going like, look, the ship is 5 miles long. Just go away. I'll see you at Christmas for like 3 minutes. Come round for Christmas. Pop round at Christmas for 3 minutes. And that's all we need to see each other for.
Is that the scene where they're in the room where he's trying to watch the Muggs Murphy cartoon?
Oh, yes.
Is that when he says that?
Yeah, I think so.
Which is the next
and
scene.
That's of course, the character that's on his T-shirt. And he's actually on his T-shirt in some of the episodes.
It is. And I don't know about you, Phil, but this scene in the control room, even stuff, I felt it was a long scene, but the dynamic, I think, between the pair sustained most of it. Yeah? I don't know what you thought.
Is this the same scene where Rimmer gets very irate?
Yes.
Yes. And kind of explodes in.
Yeah, about a whole thing about, people haven't actually experienced death, whereas he has, and it's that whole...
Yeah, and how the officer class is rubbish, and how they look down on them because...
Yes, yeah.
The maintenance people, because the maintenance people are scum, and he goes, hey, we are scum. And he's got a real chip on his shoulder that he really gets out. Oh,
absolutely. Yeah.
Me! Not any of those good-looking, twinkle-toothed, overprivileged, academy-educated geeks who know precisely which knife and fork to eat a stinking artichoke with their gentleman's club smugness and their Masonic handshaking arrogance, with their upper-class inbred golly-gosh self-satisfied docility. Me, who didn't have exam technique. Me, whose parents had to scrimp and save for everything, which is why I was 19 before I got my first super spy look-round-corners telescope. Me, who couldn't ooze effortless charm out of my hoity-toity backside. Me, Arnold, 2 pips, and that's as far as you're gonna go, mate Rimmer. That's who Holly chose. Me!
It was quite a good scene. Really showed off Chris Barrie's sort of acting.
Oh yeah, he let loose. He was allowed to just go with that. Absolutely,
that was really good. Rimmer also wants a plan. He wants to do stuff, not just coast towards Earth for 3 million years.
Yeah.
So he's like, well, what we're gonna do? We're gonna do an inventory and all this sort of kind of typical Rimmer stuff that Lister has no interest in doing. He just wants to lounge around and have fun.
You can't blame him. Like,
No.
But that again, I think, just highlights even more where these two characters are at that early in series 1. I think they're always opposites in several ways, but I think where at the time of recording this, we got to Back to Earth, didn't we, in our series rewatch? And I think by then you can still tell they're opposites in many ways, but there are more elements where they're sort of on the same page, if you get me. So it was nice to return to that, like the beginnings of it, and just see how far away they were from each other.
What did you think about the scene where Rimmer was teaching the Scutters to try and write and learn letters?
I thought, like, listening to like what happens, I think it sounds like a great scene, but I think obviously, and it's not its fault, but in storyboard form, it just doesn't really work because, of course, it's still frames, isn't it? And it's what he's trying to get him to do is a very fluid thing. It's to write, isn't it? It's to spell properly or whatever. And I think had it been shot and we'd seen it, I think it actually would have been it could have even been one of those, maybe, I don't know, like those iconic scenes people, remember, like Rimmer teaching the Scutters. But so it's a shame it didn't get recorded. So yeah, I liked it in concept, didn't get to its full thing for me because it was a storyboard. But again, that's not its fault, really. But
and when the Scutters are rubbish at writing the letter A, Rimmer clearly is just so frustrated that he just tells them to fight.
Yes, yeah.
So tells one of them to beat the other one up, and then he's like, hit him.
Yeah, but again, I think that could have been so funny, like, had it been shot, which made me, gutted in a way, because I think it's actually a great scene. Like, I think the comedy's really strong. It's just a shame it never got filmed, I think. Yeah. I mean, did you like the comedy of it as well? Or?
Yeah, I think it could have been quite amusing. I feel a bit sorry for the poor Scutters being made to fight each other. But there you go.
We get quite cruel.
Yeah, we do get a mention of a certain tool that would pique to my ears and maybe yours too as a Doctor Who fan, because they mentioned a sonic screwdriver.
Yes, they do.
Sonic screwdrivers exist in the Red Dwarf world.
They certainly do, and I guess at that time, made by the BBC, they probably could have gotten away with it. Had it been shot.
I don't know what the legalities of sonic screwdrivers are. I mean, it's a fairly generic description. Have they got it trademarked? I don't.
Maybe not at that time. They probably do now, but maybe at that time, maybe it was just a random combination of words that could have been used by anybody and everybody. But yes, it was nice to hear a little Who reference.
In another scene, we love the talkie toaster, but here we get talkie radio, possibly the origins of talkie toaster before it was then developed into a toaster. He's now, because it is a very similar voice as well. I don't know if, obviously this was recorded in 2007, so I suspect that Chris Barrie basically just took the voice for talkie toaster and just applied that to the radio. But it has the same sort of tenacious attitude to its services. It's like
ever so chipper.
Yeah, ever so chipper, ever so demanding that you use it. Like,
yes, at all costs.
At all costs.
Yeah.
Did you say carry on playing music?
I didn't. I felt that Chris's voice for both that and then later the medical machine. I thought to myself, they might have sounded more interesting. I know this is just filling in a missing episode, but it might have sounded more interesting had his voice been electronically treated a little bit. Because to me, I think the tones of like Talkie Toast, like you say, are there, but to me it sounded a bit too Rimmerish to me, and that might sound odd because, Chris Barrie is Chris Barrie, he is Rimmer, but do you know what I mean? Whereas his other impressions are so distinct. So I wonder if maybe a bit of electronic treatment.
Toaster there, so I don't know. Maybe I didn't really hear Rimmer personally.
Yeah, maybe it's just my ears, but not in terms of like the accent or anything. Just like it's a really weird thing to explain, I think, with voices. But yeah, I think maybe a touch of electronic treatment could have, because I think Toasty has some, doesn't he? Like a smidge of electronic treatment. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Talking in the medical unit, I thought this is the medical unit that Lister goes to when he wakes up and finds out he's bald. So he goes to kind of get a diagnosis from the medical unit. And the medical unit, to me, the voice sounded like Moss from the IT Crowd.
I see. I mean, like, overnight, boom, it's gone. I see. Why? I want to know why. What's wrong with me? The machine makes some impressive sounding noises, then pings. Diagnosis complete. You are suffering from a medical condition known as baldness.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean.
That kind of delivery, that kind of... Yeah.
That kind of
voice.
I love the whole bit, though, when he finds it useless and he hits it once and then it says, oh, sorry, we're out of this unit's out of commission. Here's some music. And it's the same music from the Mexican Whistler or whatever it is. I found that
Yes.
quite funny. So,
the anger towards the medical unit kind of starts when, instead of giving him a prescription, it gives him a toupee.
Yeah. There's a lot of machine destruction in this episode. Like, a lot of, do you know what I mean? A lot of anger towards a machine. So, but I mean, we all have our gripes with technology.
Those machines need to get a better union.
They do. They certainly do. But not on Titan, apparently, which is, I guess, mocking, like, the cheap tat you can get for real, like cheaply made and not very durable.
So eventually, Lister kind of works out that his hair loss isn't medical, and it's probably something to do with Rimmer.
Yes,
and because the hair that's lying around, it doesn't have the roots in; it's fake hair or something. So he kind of works out something's up and goes to threaten Rimmer with turning him off if he doesn't tell him what's up.
Yeah.
And it turns out that Rimmer is planning on building a body for himself.
Yes, yeah.
He's cloning Lister.
Yeah, which is, actually, I think, is quite an interesting concept for Rimmer. Because in the show, I think...
It does make me wonder, like, is he happy looking like Lister then? Because he doesn't, like, I can't imagine Rimmer being happy looking like Lister. I mean... Mind you, then again, in the body swap episode, he didn't seem to mind too much, so...
No, I mean, that's what I mean. In the show, they toy with that idea, don't they, that Rimmer wants to, like, seeks his life again. And then I think ever since they grant him the, the solid light hologram status, it's not, well, so far it hasn't really been brought up again, because he's got form, so it's different. But, yeah, I think that it's a really interesting concept. And the way Rimmer describes it as well, like when he's rumbled... and like his ambitions behind it.
Yeah. I did like the fact that he's clearly not a geneticist, as we know. He's a He's a chicken soup repairman. Machine repairman. But he's like, he has this vague knowledge that the human body is made up of 97% water. And so he just has barrels of water as his first step.
Make up the difference or whatever it is, yeah.
And he'll deal with the rest later.
And what did he say he read it from? The Big Boy's Book of Cloning or something like that? That got a chuckle.
He wants to create... So this is the other thing that didn't quite match up with him wanting to use Lister's DNA and clone from Lister's DNA, is that he wants to create a race of Homo Rimmer.
Oh, God.
Like Homo sapien.
Yes, the next evolution of humankind, but in Rimmer's image.
It would be Homo Lister.
It would, which, I mean, had this been like a two-parter, they could have maybe explored that, I don't know. But one thing I wrote was that this whole thing about, I mean, I don't know if it was one reason why it could have been scrapped, but maybe they followed through with this, like the whole thing of cloning and some of the technical aspects. Like, was this, maybe they realised back then in 1987, 88, was this a bit too ambitious, especially since the show was, starting out. That's not confirmed, of course, but I think it's a potential theory,
Yeah, and there's another idea that they come back to in the show later on here as well, because he mentions, as well as having this race of Rimmers, he actually does say the word Rimmer World.
Yes, yeah.
So
which
that's
gets used way
back
later.
and used in series 5 or 6. I can't remember which one it is now.
I want to say 6, but that is off the top of my head. But yes, yeah, lots of potential. And another thing that makes an appearance is, like you say, Lister says, right, that's it. I've had enough. I'm shutting you off. And he reports for death in military regalia, which does actually happen in
Me Squared.
In Me Squared, yeah. And I think, I can't remember for sure, but a lot of the dialogue, like, and he points out his medals, I swear that's in the episode.
That is, he goes long service, like 2 years long service, 5 years long service, swimming.
And then the swimming bronze or whatever it was, yeah. So it was nice to see that like, because we've said there are some influences, but it's nice to see like an actual full scene get used later, because it's good, it's funny that he reports like this.
Yeah, but unlike in Me Squared, Lister does actually turn him off.
He does,
Doesn't
yeah.
delete him like he does with the other Rimmer in Me Squared, but he does turn him off.
Yes,
and asks Holly to load up Kachansky instead. But surprise, surprise, all the discs have been hidden by Rimmer in the 10 minutes, because he asked, before he got turned off, he said, "Can I have 10 minutes?" And Lister said, "Yeah, sure." Being generous.
Which
being
was
too
a big
generous.
mistake.
Yeah,
Yeah.
big mistake. Because he used that time to go steal the discs and hide them, so he couldn't get Kachansky up. But there is one more disc, and it is Lister. So we get a hologram version of Lister, and this is another idea which they go back to, not with Lister, but again with Me Squared, they use this idea with Rimmer instead in the actual series, where you get two of the same character, and then they go on to annoy each other a lot, which we get a very trunk. You know, that's the whole basis of Me Squared, the episode, but here it's kind of just like a quick few minutes sort of montage of them getting annoying.
Yeah, and it is a bit of a quick montage. It is nice to see, though, that because obviously we see in when it happens in Me Squared that it's Rimmer, of course, who sort of sees all the flaws in himself and drives himself to that. But it's nice to see that happen to Lister, because I don't think we get it sometimes, but we don't often get Lister sort of, I guess, acknowledging the things that annoy other people. Do you know what I mean? So it's nice to see it happen here.
And this is where we go back to the opening scene, and we find out that the person snoring, annoying Lister, is Lister.
Is
the
himself.
hologram Lister.
That's right.
So we kind of ties in. I like the way that reveal happened. It's a nice little moment. I think that would have worked quite well on screen, I think.
Absolutely.
But they're like into full blown argument mode here, and to the point where they accidentally start a fire.
Yes.
And neither of them know where the fire extinguisher is, because they left a note. They removed the fire extinguisher, or the fire safety instructions.
That's
just
it,
left a note saying basically "smeg off Rimmer" or something.
Yeah, something like that.
So he not reluctantly gets rid of the hologram Lister, because he's worked out he can't stand him anyway, but he gets rid of him and reluctantly brings back Rimmer, because Rimmer might know where the fire extinguisher is. And he does. Where does he find it? Where's the fire extinguisher?
Under F, isn't it? Or whatever
Under
he says.
F in the fridge.
That's it, the fridge, yeah. All F under... Sorry, I had a complete mind blank there.
That's
F in
right.
the fridge.
F in the fridge, because
Yes.
Rimmer has decided to place everything based on its alphabetical placing, so all the F
makes
stuff
sense.
is together.
I feel that's a great idea on paper, but then in practice it just all falls apart.
Yeah. So,
but I think the scene of them putting out the fire, I think, again, like with the Scuttle scene, had this been shot, I think this could have been a great bit of like physical comedy between the two of them, because we know they're both really good at it anyway. I mean, all the main actors are. So yeah, again, shame it wasn't filmed, because I think it could have been really fun. It was funny generally, but I think it could have been even funnier had it been shot.
And then it just cuts to the next morning, and we get Lister being woken up by another emergency drill, and he has to run all the way to the room again, and it's Rimmer launching an investigation about the fire.
Yes.
And, as he says, looking for somebody to blame and punish.
That's the one. And true to form, he goes through the entire roll call all over.
Yeah, he starts the names all over again, and it ends with Lister just banging his head on the table.
Which is a very Red Dwarf ending, let's face it.
Yeah.
Like that's especially in series 1. Like that could have easily been.
Yeah, and it feels it's a well-paced ending as well, as opposed to some of the endings which do just end kind of rather abruptly. But,
oh god,
I mean,
yeah.
like if that had ended a scene before the fire extinguisher bit, I would have been saying, "Oh, this ends just abruptly."
Yeah, it's just a bit quick.
This coda on the end kind of makes it.
Like it works. It makes it work. Yeah.
So there we go. That is Bodysnatchers.
An interesting
so
experience.
Called, I assume, because he's trying to create a body from his DNA.
Yeah, it wasn't what I expected, because obviously you hear that name, that science fiction golden territory about, aliens or other beings coming to take our bodies. So I thought it was going to be, something like that. They encounter an alien race. But No, it's just Rimmer being a bit of an idiot, trying to clone himself.
Yeah. What did you have a favourite character? No, which do we usually do? Yeah, we usually do character first, don't we?
Yeah.
Favourite character out of it. I mean, we don't have many options here.
I think it's hard as well, isn't it? Because I think we said the same with Identity. Well, I guess Identity Within had a bit clearer, but obviously when it's storyboarded, it is. You could argue it's a bit harder, and Chris Barrie is doing all of them. But I think for that reason, it's got to be Rimmer.
Okay.
I think again those longer scenes where he's like, obviously I know it's him doing it as well, but I think like when Rimmer loses it and the roll call and all that stuff, I think's great. So yeah, I'm going to give it to Rimmer for this one.
Yeah, same. For the same reasons, but sounds of it, I was thinking of the scene where he absolutely loses it, and the coming in military uniform bit, which I know we've seen in other episodes, in another episode already, but it is a good bit, and yeah, I think this is a Rimmer episode, really, and I think he gets the credit there. Funniest moment? Do you have one?
It's a really random moment, and I'm kind of ashamed at myself that I laughed as much as I did, but I think it's one of those, I think I've said before, where it comes so left field, you're not expecting it, and it catches you unawares. It's when they're in the, common bit of the ship, where he's with Kat, and Kat's swiping his food, and then Rimmer comes in and just goes, "Oh, look, a talking testicle." And I think it's because how it's delivered, and it's just so quick and abrupt, it really got a laugh out of me, so... Yeah, shame to say it, because it's a very easy joke, but yeah, it got a laugh out of me, so it's got to be that one. What about yourself?
Well, I think probably, and I don't know if I want to give it to it because it is a repeated moment that we've had in another episode later on, but I really like the bit where with the medals, and he's just, he asks him what the medals are, and it's long service, long service, swimming,
yeah, the bronze as well,
yeah.
Bronze for swimming.
That was a good bit. So that's my favourite bit.
Yeah.
What about marks out of 10? Scutters out of 10. How many scutters did you give it?
It was hard because obviously, like we're saying, it's with it being storyboarded.
Yeah, you kind of got to judge. You got to judge it on what it is, and not, necessarily compared to an actual episode.
I think I'm giving this a 6 out of 10. But if I'm being honest, maybe had this been. I think with the quality of some of the comedy that we mentioned, I think had they shot it and it had actually been an episode, I've got a feeling I would have ranked it a little higher. But based on what I saw, because it's all we have to go off, I'd give it a 6. I think Chris Barrie always does a phenomenal job voicing everybody anyway. Like I said, there are some great scenes in there of comedy. The scutter scene, the fire extinguisher scene. It's... and just some moments that I'm glad made its way into actual episodes. But yeah, I'm sticking with my gut. I'll go with a 6. What about yourself?
I'm going to give it one higher. I'm going to give it a 7. I think this has the makings of a really good episode. And obviously it had some really good parts on that they wanted to cannibalize for later episodes in it that were really funny. So I think it has a lot of potential in it. And I like the script. I like the plot. I like the dialogue. There's not out of what there is. There's not much to dislike. And even if we're looking at the presentation we got, I think the drawings were more detailed and better than that we got with Identity Within and things like that. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 7.
Nice, solid. Not bad then. Not bad.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's another one done. We will get to Series 10 eventually. I promise you. Well, I don't want to overpromise anything. It may be next episode. It may
possibly.
It may be another special. We're going to leave you hanging on that one. We'll find out.
Do you know what? You'll have to tune in to find out the answer to that. You see,
but I promise you, we will get there. In the meantime, if you want to catch us on anywhere elsewhere online on the socials and things, then you can catch.
Yes.
Obviously, the podcast has a Twitter account, which is @AllDeadDavePod. I have a Twitter account, which is @CultureFilter. Which is PHILTER, because my name's Phil. Adam has a Twitter account, which is...
I do. Adam Martyn, AMTV. Martyn's with the Y. And yeah, you can follow me there on Twitter and on YouTube as well, just as Adam Martyn.
Yep, and I'm just Philip Hawkins on YouTube. So look us up there. This podcast goes up there, as well as other geeky pop culture stuff as well. So do check us out on there, and do check out our merch store as well. We've got a merch store with some goodies in if you want to have a look at something with our logo and our cartoon faces on, then have a look at that as well in the description of the YouTube comments. YouTube version of this podcast. We'll be back next time. So thank you for listening, and we'll say goodbye. Goodbye.
See you later.